Git is a tool that I got really good with about 15 or 16 years ago. I had to get good with it in order to collaborate with other developers. But today, Claude Code and Cursor actually write a whole lot of my code. And when it comes time to commit, they can actually do a much better job than I could. In addition to that, they can process information a lot faster than I can when it comes to parsing through Git logs. What does it look like to use Git and GitHub assisted by Claude? Since we're building this new Mac up from scratch with AI as a focus, why don't we just ask Claude? So first, we're in our nix-darwin config directory. That's because in a previous video, we set up Nix as our package manager for this Mac. We use it to install Vim, Claude, and Git, but we haven't configured anything. So let's open up Claude. I'd like to configure Git, but since you'll be doing most of the coding and committing, I want to make sure that my Git and GitHub setup works for you. What do you recommend? I'll help you set up Git and GitHub for working together. Let me first check your current configurations and see what's already in place. Needs to learn a little bit more about our setup. I promise you there's like literally nothing in here. Okay, it wants to run the auth status command, and I'm gonna say continue to ask. Yeah, that's fine, let's go for it. Grooving. All right, finally, we have some information. Based on the current state, here are my recommendations for Git and GitHub setup. Essential configuration, set up your Git identity, install GitHub CLI. Now, it's suggesting that we do this via brew, which I'd prefer not to do since we have Nix set up, and then log in with GH. That sounds good, save for the brew recommendation. Let's prefer the Nix setup. Sock hopping. Okay, we can install the GitHub CLI with our nix-darwin setup, and we can add basic configuration inside of our Flake file. Now, in my last video, I talked about going in the deep end with Home Manager and my Nix setup and not really enjoying it. But one of the benefits of using a flake.nix file is that you can set up a machine remotely from a GitHub repository. So having my basic Git information inside of this Flake file actually helps me set up this machine correctly every time without forgetting a step. I'm not too worried about that information being on GitHub because it's already on GitHub with all of my public signed commits. I love it. Let's go. Razzmatazing. We're adding GH to our flake.nix, considering, and adding our config. Note that this isn't my name yet, so we might have to figure that out. I'm immediately wishing that there was like a refine option. Just yes, no, and don't bother me. Seems like it's missing something. All right, looks like we're ready to go on that front. Now we need to update this, which I'd like it to do. Here's my name and email. I'll let you do what you gotta do. One thing I do like about Claude Code so far are these suggestions based on the next step. I think I can just hit tab and send, which is great. Sublimating, moseying. All right, now this command has to be run with sudo, so we'll have to remember that. Give it the finger. So this programs.get option doesn't exist in nix-darwin. Let me fix this by using environments.etc to create a git config instead. Yes, let's remove this from our flake.nix since it doesn't work. And we have some options. We can configure Git manually, given the git config CLI. And option 2, we can add Home Manager, which is not what I want to do. I prefer not to use Home Manager. I had a bad experience. All right, so this is just setting things up manually. I could have done that, but I was hoping for something a little bit more declarative, if you will. Let's log in. Canoodling. Okay, we have this one-time password that we need to collect. I'm a little bothered that I can't just command or control click this URL. And we're ready to go. I forgot to unpause my recording, but we got it perfect. Everything is worked out. We got logged in, and we even did our first commit. Next, I'd like to get into some of the human part. I have a big file of aliases that I have adopted when using Git manually. I think it'll still be handy when I'm in a project file not inside of Claude. So I'll see if I can just give it a link and have it create that alias file for me. Here in chantastic.config, you can see all of my Git aliases. Let's grab this URL, see what we can do. My standard Git config is on GitHub. Use it for this machine. Here's the URL. Tomfoolering. That's a little bit of a stretch. Yes, you can read from GitHub. Bloviating. Bloviating? Read the git config. I don't think there is one. Well, it seems to have gotten most, if not all of it. Let's go. Stewing. All right, you've got it. Your standard aliases and settings are included. Git A, Git C, Git S, etc. Now we're almost there. Anytime I have a commonly used command line tool, I really prefer ZSH functions and reducing them to a single letter. So in this case, G. Between ZSH functions and these single letter aliases inside of Git, it's really handy when writing commands, but still being able to use all of the flags. I have a whole rant about how people do Git aliases wrong. Maybe I'll make a video on that. But for now, let's see if Claude can get close to my solution, which I'll show later. I'd like you to add a ZSH function for G. When used without arguments, run git status. Otherwise, the command as typed. Flambeing? Man, now I want dessert. Okay, first it's going to check if we have a ZSHRC. And yeah, this is, I think, exactly what I've used in the past. We can confirm that by going into the dotfiles, ZSH functions, G. Yeah, that's it. Nicely done. Shimmying. Okay, I've created a .zshrc. Now this is a different location. I usually divide my functions, but I'm okay with this for now. We'll run git statuses when you hit just G and run git plus the arguments when you type something additionally. I love these suggestions. This is great. So it says that we need to source. It didn't suggest it here. I wonder if I just hit enter. No. Source.zshrc. Thundering. It is kind of weird that it has to think in those environments. I think it's designed for more like, you tell it what you want and it just goes instead of this iterative process. But I don't know. I'm learning it as we go. Swooping. This is just hilarious. It's weird that it's not just a shell running these. Okay, I'm sick of this. Let's just open up a new one. G works great. G status, same command but deliberate. G log lets the command through. We get our pretty log as defined by our git config. Very nice. Okay, so today was just about getting Git set up for Claude, but I do want to ask what the best way to set up dotfiles are if we don't plan on using Home Manager. I've heard Stow's good. I've used RCM in the past. Let's see what Claude thinks. What do you advise for keeping dotfiles like the ones that we've created under version control? Booping. Since you already have a .config repo in GitHub with your git config, I'd recommend continuing that pattern. Here are a few approaches. Symlinks. Store dotfiles in a .config or dedicated dotfiles repo. Create symlinks from your home directory to the repo. Very manual process, which is probably fine, actually. Option 2 is GNU Stow. Cleaner symlink management. Organize files in .config with proper structure. Use Stow to automatically create symlinks. It's available in npx packages. Helpful to know, thank you. Option 3, direct script. This gives us the most control. Keep files in repo. Write a simple install script that copies, links them. Tell me more about my options for automating symlinks with nix-darwin. Clauding. Oh, we got a Clauding. That's great. Option 1, system activation scripts. This runs shell commands during Darwin rebuild switch. You can use it to create symlinks. So this is that manual process that we were talking about before, except automated through nix-darwin. Pros, simple, runs automatically on rebuild, can use any shell commands, good for a few lines. Okay. Cons, manual management. You list each symlink, runs as root during activation. Have to specify full paths. Option 2, keep files in Nix store. Store .file content directly in your flake and write them out. Environment etc, ZSH. Cons, only works for / etc, not home directory. Not ideal for personal .files. Option 3 is to clone the repo in an activation script. So if there's no config directory, we'll pull down what we have from GitHub and then run the aliases that way. Okay, I want to check something. If we do an activation script, this would still be compatible with remote flake.nix setup, correct? Whatchamacalliting? Whatchamacallit? Yes, activation scripts work perfectly with remote flakes. They're just shellcode that runs during Darwin rebuild switch, regardless of whether you're building from a local or remote flake. All right, a bunch of stuff, and it says this makes your setup fully reproducible on a fresh machine. You'd only need to install nix-darwin, run Darwin rebuild switch flake with a destination. Everything gets cloned and linked automatically. This is actually a great pattern for keeping your Nix config separate from your .files while still having automated setup. Cool. I just love it when Claude kind of pats me on the back. It's great. Do you want me to implement this? No, this video's been long enough. I'm going to save it for the next setup video. But can you give me a concise prompt so that we can pick up where we left off here? Thundering. Here's a concise prompt to resume. Add nix-darwin activation script to automate dotfile symlinks. Clone my gitconfig repository. If missing, then symlink gitconfig to .gitconfig and create. Okay, cool. Should work with a remote flakes setup. This captures everything we discussed and the next action item. Good luck with the setup video. You're so sweet. Okay, so my goal today was really just to get set up, and everything worked as planned. No surprises here. I think that we have a really good setup. I'm generally a big fan of CLIs for code tools like this, so I think GitHub is a perfect one because they have this fabulous CLI. It knows how to use it. Typically, CLIs are well documented with man pages, and I just really like that direct route for it to be able to discover commands that it needs, run the commands, and connect to my services. And we have a starting point for our next video where I'll try to get my config all set up the way that I like it using this activation script strategy. It should be a lot of fun. If you missed the last video on setting up Nix, it's going to be right here. And if you're watching this after we get our config file set up, that's going to be here. Okay, bye.